Yeah. You're tuned in to the sound, turn the volume up now. Bringing you the real, no filter, just the facts. Dropping knowledge on these classic tracks. From the jump, yeah, we keep it on lock. Tick tock, listen to the clock. Let's get it. Yeah.
Well, welcome. You made it back here because you want to be here, because you know you love it here, first of all. Here's where we think a little, laugh a little, and consume less BS. Spiritually, mentally, physically, we feed your conscience. We get you full because a stronger mind, a grounded spirit, and a healthier body makes you harder to fool. Yeah, I'm getting ready to open your eyes a little bit. That's right. You remember I told you we're going to talk about these 5 powers, and these 5 European powers, basically. Let me slow down a little bit. Let's get into it. Because there's going to be some shocking stuff, man. So the first European nation to build a sustained colony or colonial empire in North America was Spain. They just won the World Cup. Right? Yeah, the Spaniards. They created permanent towns, forts, churches, ports, governing institutions, military installations, and commercial operations throughout Caribbeans, throughout Mexico, throughout Florida. So the first permanent Spanish command center in the so-called Americas, the Caribbean islands out that way, is in modern-day Dominican Republic, established in the late 1490s. It became a launch pad and the headquarters for the Spaniards' expedition to conquer and colonize Puerto Rico, Cuba, Mexico, Florida, Central America, and South America. So, St. Augustine, Florida, was founded by Pedro Mendez de Avila in September 1565. It is the oldest continuously occupied European-founded settlement in the continental United States. So when this ship arrived here, or ships, it was more than just one. These ships arrived carrying soldiers, sailors, priests, farmers, animals, craftsmen. It was an organized expedition. It was a sign that Spain came to occupy America. They also came with their swords, their economic system designed to extract the wealth out of this country. And in the meantime, they were setting up churches. They were working in cahoots. Military operation, churches. Churches, military operations. As we kill you, we can tell you, hey, pray. It's okay. It's okay. Pray. Go, God, and glory. So the merchants wanted the wealth. The churches wanted the converts. The military commanders wanted the title, land, and prestige. So the Spaniards collided with the civilizations that were already here. They started colliding with the indigenous people or the indigenous nations that were already established. So why Florida, though? Florida, Florida, Florida. You're welcome. Yeah, somebody's recognizing that. Florida was Spain's military highway. So after killing, stealing, raping, and setting up missionaries in Mexico, Central America, South America, it was a place where the Spanish treasure ships, or these fleets carrying wealth, can travel north through the Florida Straits, catch the Gulf Stream towards Europe. So Florida sat beside this most valuable maritime highway at that time on Earth. It wasn't just a colony for Spain. It was also a security system, a watchtower over the Atlantic. So St. Augustine, Pedro Menendez de Avila, he arrived as a military commander, carrying out orders from Philip, or King Philip II of Spain. His mission was to secure Florida, defend the Spanish interests, and remove the French from Fort Caroline, which is now present-day Jacksonville. So the French settlers were primary French Protestants. Spain was Catholic. So their colony represents territorial, commercial, and religious threats. This was not some kind of peaceful neighborhood camaraderie. It wasn't no ribbon cutting situation. It was a straight up military operation. Spain captured Fort Caroline. So the Spanish troops killed large numbers of already surrendered French soldiers. This place is still there. It's called Martinez or Martinez. What does it say? Martinez. Yeah, I think it's still on the map. It means slaughter. Martez, I think, something like that. Still on the map. So what happened to these indigenous nations that were already there? So, with Spain doing that and kicking Florida's butt, the French butt, basically slaughtering them. That was their MO. It didn't mean that Spain had suddenly just conquered these indigenous nations that were already in Florida, because these tribes had their own territory, their own government, and they had their own military power. So the relationship between Spain and these different tribal nations, it varied. There was trade, of course, there was alliance, but their mission was to convert this Indian tribes to their religion. It was. When you research some of it, look at some of it, it was about their mission was religious conversion. And I read this in a book called The Secret History of America. And I'll share some of that with you later. This was a straight up open warfare. So the Europeans brought these devastating diseases to the indigenous population. Sicknesses that they never even had. Smallpox, measles, the flu, influenza. We still having these same germs and diseases that they brought here from Europe still to this day. Is that like a curse or something? Huh? They brought all this sickness and germs and bacteria right from Europe to here. Yeah, they did. I said they did. So tack that on with the violence, the wars, and the disruption of the food system. This sort of kind of added to the destruction. So, this is also a story about these indigenous nations trying to survive under this pressure. These germs and bacteria they never had before just wiped out a lot of them. Okay. Now, England entered this colony contest. The settlers from England started arriving aboard the Susan Constance and Godspeed and Discovery to establish their colonies. The first one, Jamestown, Virginia. Yeah. I was wondering about that, Charlie. I used to hear people say, Godspeed, get it done, Godspeed. Basically, it's about these ships coming from England. So I did a little research on it. No. They did not have slaves on them like the Spanish did. And I'm going to cover this a little bit later. St. Augustine. There's some very, very deep history there. But I need to get through this so I can finish with some of these 5 powers, right? So these settlers, they had valuable commodities. Gold. They had gold. Why would you bring gold from, you brought gold from Europe to here. You brought gold from Europe to here. Yeah, you got to have your money with you, I guess. So these colonies, these British colonies, they nearly collapsed because of disease and hunger and conflicts with these indigenous tribes there. They weren't just going to let you walk in. They weren't just going to let you take it. Why would they do that? We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back. Let's get back into it. England became this dominant colonial power along the Atlantic coast. For the British, it was a commercial venture because the British was charging high taxes to guard these colonies. The Brits came as investors and they expected a profit. Eventually, tobacco transformed Virginia into a profitable plantation colony, creating this growing demand for labor, pushing settlements farther into indigenous territories, and helping produce the plantation system that will come or will become dependent upon slavery. Jamestown became this opening machinery of English expansion. Yeah. A tobacco plantation. So you can get your smoke on. Spain came first, but the English told the story louder. Here's the reason why many Americans think that the English came first. The English colonies, the descendants of these colonies, wrote school books, established national institutions, and elevated Jamestown, Plymouth, into this foundation of stories. Spain, earlier present, became a side chapter. But history does not begin whenever or wherever the winning empire decides to open a textbook. Before Jamestown, there was St. Augustine. Before St. Augustine, there was Veracruz. Before Veracruz, there was Santo Domingo. Before Santo Domingo, there was the Norse sailors in Newfoundland. And before every European ship, fort, flag, royal, claim, whoever want to claim this land or think you own this land, these indigenous nations were already here, living here, been on this land for thousands of years, didn't have all these crazy diseases. It was peaceful here. So when we ask, which European country came here first? The answer depends on, well, what you mean? Because the Norse, the Scandinavian nation, the Vikings, they left the earliest confirmed European footprint. Like 500 years before Chris Columbus even knew about this country. Well, he wasn't even born then. But anyway, 500 years before he even sailed this way, Spain created the first colonial empire. They built this network of towns, forts, ports, governments, missionaries. It reached Florida long before the English ever went or built Jamestown. Spain brought Europeans and Africans into this region decades before 1619. I think 1619, they want to say that was where the first slaves were traded, but I have proof that it was before that. I read up on it. So, and all of them entered lands that were already inhabited, governed, cultivated, defended. They had their own spirituality there. But they want to bring their religions here, like they're here. To this very day, you're practicing European religion. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper in that, though. You'll see yourself. So the discovery of this continent, it wasn't empty. Basically, you had this collision course of two different worlds. So it was a collision that was driven by ambition, religion, international rivalry, and the hunger for wealth. These ships crossed the Atlantic, carrying swords. They rolled flags, carrying slaves. They carried settlers searching for opportunities, but they also carried empires searching for control. And once those ships reached the shorelines of North America, history changed. It changed violently, permanently, and forever. So why did they leave their homeland? Why did they bring that mess over here? Why did they bring it here? This land there was already peace. So there had to be some violence going on in your land. There had to be something that would drive thousands and thousands of people to leave Europe, their homeland, to come here and claim it as yours now. Now you want to claim it as yours. You always somewhere trying to tell somebody, go back to Africa, go back to Mexico, go back to Europe. So the next time you hear someone say, go back to Africa, go back to Mexico, or go back to where you came from, remember this: those words don't erase history, they expose ignorance. History reminds us that nearly every family in this nation came from somewhere else at some point. The real question isn't whether your ancestors came from. The real question is, what kind of person do you choose to be today? You don't honor this country by hating your neighbor. You honor it by learning it through history. It's history. That's where you learn it from. So before you repeat a slogan, learn the story. Before you judge a people, know the facts. Because ignorance builds walls. Knowledge builds bridges. Here on Conversation No Filter, we don't fear uncomfortable conversations. We chase the truth, even if it's inconvenient for you. Even if it's very uncomfortable for you. Oh well. We challenge ideas, not human dignity. We believe history should unite us through understanding, not divide us through ignorance. Think a little, laugh a little, and consume less BS. All gas and no brakes. I'm Ruben B. Conversations No Filter.
Thanks for joining me on Conversations No Filter. If today's conversation made you think, question, or see the world a little differently, then we've done our job. Join me again next week for more thought-provoking conversations and fresh perspectives designed to challenge your thinking and expand your mind. Until then, stay curious.